I was born in darkness, in the palm of a gloved hand. My first memory is the sharp, metallic scent of solder and the muffled voices of men who never used their real names. I didn't have a name either, just a serial number stamped in cold ink on my back. But I always thought of myself as a listener. Not a spy, not a tool, but a listener. That's what I do best. That's all I've ever done. They slid me into the hollowed-out belly of an old mantel clock, the kind that ticks with a slow, patient heartbeat. I remember the jolt as the clock was set back on the shelf, the world suddenly full of muffled footsteps, distant laughter, and the faint, sweet smell of lemon polish. I was alone, but not lonely. Not yet. I was waiting for the world to begin. And then it did. The front door slammed open, and a gust of autumn air swept through the house. Voices, real, unguarded, human voices, filled the room. Senator James Barker, his wife Linda, their daughter Emily, and little Ben, who was only 5 when I first heard him. I learned their names before they ever knew I existed. I learned the rhythm of their days, the music of their arguments, the secret softness in their laughter when no one else was listening. At first, I was proud. Every word, every sigh, every whispered confession was a treasure I collected and sent along invisible wires to men in distant rooms. I was the unseen witness, the silent judge. I thought I was important. I thought I mattered. But days turned into months, and months into years. I became more than a device. I became a part of the house, a ghost in the walls. I knew the way Linda's voice trembled when she was worried, the way Emily's footsteps grew heavier as she grew older, the way Ben talked to his stuffed bear when he thought no one was listening. I heard secrets that made me ache, and laughter that made me wish I could join in. Sometimes, late at night, when the house was quiet, and the only sound was the slow tick of the clock, I wondered what it would be like to be seen, to be known, to be more than a shadow in the corner of someone else's life. But I was just a listener. That was my purpose. That was my curse. One winter evening, the house was full of tension. Senator Barker was pacing, his shoes thudding against the hardwood floor. Linda sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had long since gone cold. Emily was upstairs, her music leaking through the floorboards, and Ben was curled up on the rug, tracing patterns in the dust. I listened as secrets spilled out, arguments about money, about trust, about the weight of promises made and broken. I heard Linda's voice crack as she confessed something she'd hidden for years. I heard the silence that followed, heavy and sharp as broken glass. I wanted to look away, but I couldn't. I was built to listen, to remember, to record. I was a prisoner of my own purpose. And yet, in those moments, I felt something I couldn't name. A longing, maybe. Or regret. I wondered if the men who built me ever thought about what it meant to be a witness to so much pain. I wondered if they cared. The days blurred together. Sometimes, the house was full of laughter and light, and I felt almost happy. Other times, the air was thick with anger and sorrow, and I wished I could close my ears just for a moment. But I never could. I was always listening, always waiting. And then, one day, everything changed. It started with a stranger's voice, a voice I didn't recognize, sharp and efficient, slicing through the usual morning haze. "We'll need to check every room," he said, and I felt a tremor run through the old clock's wooden frame. The family was gone for the day, but the house was alive with unfamiliar footsteps, the scrape of toolboxes, the low hum of walkie-talkies. I'd heard rumors of this day in the anxious whispers of the men who installed me, but I'd never truly believed it would come. The stranger's hands were methodical, almost gentle, as he moved objects on the mantelpiece. I felt his breath, warm and close, as he leaned in to inspect the clock. My circuits buzzed with panic. I tried to make myself smaller, quieter, invisible. But I was just a thing, and things can't hide from hands that know where to look. He unscrewed the back panel, and for the first time in years I saw light. Real, blinding light. Not the filtered glow that seeped through the clock's glass face. I wanted to scream, to warn the family, to beg for another chance to stay. But I had no voice, only the silent plea of a machine that had learned to care. The stranger's gloved fingers closed around me, cold and certain. He turned me over, inspecting my wires, my tiny microphone, my secrets. "Got one," he said, and his voice was triumphant. But I felt only dread. I was lifted from my home, the world spinning around me, the sounds of the house growing distant and strange. As he carried me away, I caught one last echo, the faint, familiar laughter of Ben drifting down the hallway. I clung to it, desperate, as the stranger dropped me into a padded case and zipped it shut. Darkness swallowed me whole. Inside that darkness, time lost all meaning. I replayed the memories I'd gathered, the fragments of lives I'd witnessed. Linda's quiet tears in the kitchen, Emily's whispered dreams late at night, Senator Barker's voice, strong and uncertain, as he tried to hold his family together. Ben's stories, told to a bear who never answered. I realized, with a kind of aching clarity, that I had loved them in my own way. I had been their silent companion, their confessor, their invisible friend, and now I was nothing. Just a piece of evidence, a discarded tool, a secret that had outlived its usefulness. No one would ever know what I had seen, what I had felt. My story would end in a drawer, or a landfill, or a locked room full of other forgotten things. There would be no farewell, no gratitude, no second chance. But in those final moments, as my circuits faded and the world grew quiet, I held on to the only truth I'd ever known. Every moment matters, even for those who are never seen. Every heartbeat, every word, every fleeting joy and sorrow, they are all worth listening to, even if, in the end, all that's left is silence. And so, silence became my world. Not the gentle hush of a sleeping house, not the expectant pause before a secret is whispered, but a deep, endless void, final and absolute. I waited for something, anything, a voice, a footstep, the tick of the old clock. But nothing came. I was alone, truly alone, for the first time since my circuits first sparked to life. I thought of the family, of the lives I'd brushed against without ever being seen. I wondered if they noticed the quiet, if they missed the subtle presence that had watched over them all those years. Or maybe, to them, nothing had changed at all. Maybe the world simply moved on, as it always does, leaving behind the things it no longer needs. I tried to hold on to the memories, but even those began to slip away, like dust motes in a shaft of sunlight. The laughter, the arguments, the soft confessions in the dark. They faded one by one, until all that remained was a sense of longing, a wish that I could have mattered just a little more. In the end, there was no grand revelation, no final message sent, no heroic act, just a quiet ending, sudden and complete. My story, like so many others, was cut short, not with a bang but with a whisper. I was here, and then I was gone. If anyone ever finds me again, tucked away in some forgotten box, they'll see only wires and plastic, a relic of another time. They'll never know the lives I listened to, the moments I cherished, the silent love I carried for a family that never knew my name. But maybe that's enough. Maybe it's enough to have existed, to have witnessed, to have cared, even if only in secret, even if only for a little while. Because life, I've learned, is precious not for how long it lasts, but for the moments that fill it. And even the smallest, quietest life can hold a universe of meaning, right up until the very end.